Throne of Eldraine is approaching fast, and it's a set of fairy tales, card cycles, and a very shady character. That's right, today we are looking at the dealer of Eldraine, Grumgully the Generous. He costs 1 mana and Gruul for a 3/3 legendary goblin shaman that has flavor text that reads, "Does it matter what it is? Take it and be grateful." So in this video we'll be going to a field and picking some mushrooms, and oh, what? There's another line of text? Well, I guess it's a no-grow on the mushrooms then. The other line of text reads, each other non-human creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. We can use this ability and other synergies such as hydras, because what good set doesn't have hydras, and +1/+1 counter synergies to make an amazing deck. So what are these synergies? Let's get into it. Armorcraft Judge allows us to draw a card for each and every one of the creatures we control due to the fact that all of our creatures will have a +1/+1 counter on them, meaning that we can keep our hands very full whenever this card touches the battlefield. Inspiring Call has an extremely similar effect, except it also grants these creatures indestructible, a simply magnificent effect. So we can put many counters on many creatures, and there is actually a very cool interaction with Resist because -1/-1 counters and +1/+1 counters counteract. So our creatures can eternally die and come back, and maybe even be looped infinitely? Yes, that is correct, we do have some infinite combos in this deck. And it is Ashnod's Altar plus Woodfall Primus. Let me take you through every combo very briefly. Ashnod's Altar, or any other sacrifice outlet for the matter, plus Resist, again, makes an infinite death or enter the battlefield loop. So Woodfall Primus destroys all non-creature permanents our opponents control. So we can basically just Armageddon just our opponents. And we are basically guaranteed to win if our opponents can't play lands. Ariufs does not need the altar to go infinite, it can just wipe out any and all flying creatures we don't want on the battlefield by itself. And there are other ways that we can set up these combos. Oh, and the altar plus any persist creature goes infinite with mana. Gamble is probably the best red tutor in the game. Worldly Tutor can get us any card. Most likely in this case Woodfall Primus, an absurd card in this deck. So yeah, we can go infinite, but we can also do so much more. In other persist, we do play Cauldron of Souls to keep the creatures we want around. We have a slew of these synergies in cards that specifically have blanket effects. Cryptoplast Rootkin is larger when we have more creatures with counters on them. Forgotten Ancient can become enormous if we want it to or need it to be so. Rishkar, Pima Renegade, allows all of our creatures to tap for mana, an extremely valuable effect to have, especially so that we can amass an army and then be able to tap that army for mana. Because once again all of our creatures should have counters on them, Tuskguard Captain is an immediate advantage to have on our side when we attack, granting all of our creatures the trample they deserve. Animation Module is not only just a good card, but it gives us the option to pay 1 mana an infinite number of times to make 1/1 servos. This is because whenever a creature enters the battlefield, they get a +1/+1 counter on it as long as we own the creature. And when we put a counter on something, we may pay 1 mana to create a servo with a counter. So we may pay 1 mana to make another servo with another counter, and the loop really just goes on and on and on. Zhang-Yangu Wildcrafter is the last card in this section, and this card is incredible for the deck. Unlike Rishkar, Zhang-Yangu allows us to tap for mana of any color. But besides the blanket effects, we play some specific abilities and interactions with +1/+1 counters as well, including the first card in this section. Crystalline Crawler is going to ramp us out into more cards, and in the event we can generate all colored mana, we are going to create one heck of a creature, especially if it can enter the battlefield with additional counters. More on that later. Fertilid can also ramp us extra due to the fact that we have extra counters to remove to ramp us. Gyre Sage becomes one of the most effective mana ramp pieces in the game when combined with our current commander, who once again is impressively synergistic and powerful. Hangerback Walker and Hooded Hydra are incredible token producers when they die, because they will be so powerful and have so many tokens once they die. Plus our altar combo makes most of these incredibly powerful if we can get infinite mana. Incubation Druid is one heck of a card in the right scenario, and the right scenario is when this card is played when our commander is on the battlefield so that this particular druid can tap for 3 mana, that it can produce immediately. Mawu, Loyal Companion, is not only a dog but a big boy very quickly due to the fact that he is a personal hardened scales, a card we will come back to later. Mykolov has to be one of the best cards in this deck with the most potential, as it can simply go off with the amount of tokens it will be created in every single turn. Primordial Hydra is going to be making Mawu feel small in this deck. 10 +1/+1 counters? Ha, that's easy. More like 100! I'm serious, that's not going to take much effort in this deck. Our first non-commander new card is Steelbane Hydra, because every Magic set has to have a Hydra, and this one is actually quite impressive. We can consistently Reclamation Sage artifacts and enchantments as long as we have a few mana up, because we will have the counters left to remove. The next Hydra on our list is Voracious Hydra, a card that will enter the battlefield with a high number of +1/+1 counters because of the additional one it will receive prior to doubling, or it can just be a very good removal piece. Walking Ballista is an absolutely incredible removal piece and a ticking time bomb for our opponent. So all of our cards can get slightly bigger because of our commander alone, but this next section of cards is all about making our creatures that much bigger and taking advantage of large creatures. There are a few lands that we'll begin with. Castle Emberbirth will get the job done of boosting all of our creatures for an attack, and I would like to put it out there that this cycle of rare lands and Throne of Eldraine is very good. Karn's Bastion can boost all of our creatures in the slot of a land, and is great even if we somehow run out of a hand. Llanowar Reborn is going to boost up one of our creatures that can go off with +1/+1 counters. And as you can see, we have a lot of creatures to choose from. Opal Palace is going to boost our commander, and Oran-Reef the Vastwood will pump up our creatures. These effects may seem insignificant, but because they are on lands, they provide us with additional value, because we may put them in our deck for basically no downside, besides some entering tapped. But moving on to the more powerful cards we play Solidarity of Heroes. This card allows us to essentially vorl a bunch of creatures and go off, especially on our Hydras. Evolution Sage will allow us to non-stop proliferate, and that means whenever we play a land, all of our creatures get that much bigger. Whenever we play a land! This is an absolutely incredible effect, period. Colonian Hydra is going to be a finishing card from the very start. That's right, this card is going to be absolutely incredible, and cards like this make me so excited about the potential of a deck headed by an uncommon commander. Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin, is exactly what we want to do in terms of abusing the power of creatures. We make more creatures by having a powerful creature, and all of these creatures have the ability to also be large. Loyal Guardian is simply underrated in my opinion, as every turn we have our 3-mana commander out, we get counters on our creatures. Having a 3-mana commander on the battlefield shouldn't be that hard. Pure Imaginative Rascal is a human, but it's one heck of a human. Not only will it benefit the 3 planeswalkers we play, but all of our creatures insanely. Once again, these cards will make our deck pop off and explode with counters. Still thinking of attacking me? Vigor can make all of my creatures into blockers that are going to get absolutely huge from the amount of damage that is constantly being dealt around us. Panharmonicon is going to make sure every single creature enters the battlefield with an extra counter on it, something that is pretty easy to abuse. And a new card just makes my heart feel all good and tingly as it ramps us, gains us life, draws us cards, and boosts our non-token creatures, all for the price of very little mana. This card is none other than the new card, the Great Henge, possibly my favorite card from the new set because it is so diverse and so good. It puts a checkmark in so many categories, so many people try to fill in Commander. So good! Because this deck is going to put so many counters on things, it is going to win with combat, even if it's attacking with infinite servers. So when we go to attack, we can boost our creatures with things like Berserker's Onslaught. And Colossal Majesty is going to take advantage of these big creatures and drawing us cards. In the case that removal targets are creatures that we cannot counter, but we can, Heroic Intervention, or even just let the creature die knowing that we have Death's presence on the battlefield. Doubling Season and Primal Vigor are very expensive cards. I know this, but they're just so good in this deck. We're going to have to take full advantage of these enchantments, and believe me, these are 2 great ones. The next cards we have to keep our hand full with are Elemental Bond and Greater Good. Both of these power-based card draw effects are going to synergize perfectly with the rest of our deck. I said we would come back to Hardened Scales, and here we are. This card is incredible in this deck. For just 1 mana, this card is an enabler of making our deck go off. Path of Discovery is also amazing in this deck, as we can fill our hands with lands that provide several different effects while also giving our creatures counters for a good time. Speaking of adding more counters for a good time, Rhythm of the Wild can do more than that. It can protect our creatures and give them riot. So in the words of Duckworth, who here trying to start a riot? So if we have established that our creatures are going to go big and we're probably going to have to attack to win, then we look for another card to change this perception and game plan. That card is Warstorm Surge. We can stack enter the battlefield triggers so that the card will get a counter and then be able to smack players and creatures for mass amounts of damage. Because this deck wants to make creatures so big, we aren't even done with this category still, so we're going to go a little more quick through the rest of the cards. Courage and Crisis proliferates. Overlong Stampede can finish off the game. Plane-Wide Celebration is so versatile. Richard's expertise is crazy powerful with the amount of cards it can draw in this deck. And we can get a 5 mana cost card out of it? Yes, please. If we can attack them, why not do it again with Seize the Day? Traverse the Outland should always be getting all of our lands out of our library. Triumph of the Hordes is a game winner in this deck and may even be able to finish the game extraordinarily early. Domri, Chaos Bringer, pads out our hand, ramps us, and grants Riot. Vivian Arcbow Ranger will boost us and remove opponents' creatures. What a section that we are almost done with non-land cards. So what are the rest? A lot are removals such as Vandal Blast, Bane of Progress, Cindervine, Song of the Dryads, but we also play 2 others, the obligatory Soul Ring, and Avenger of Zendikar. The Avenger will create so many creatures with so many counters that it is simply impossible to pass it up. So this brings us to the lands. Most are standard lands that can either tap for either color, some let us scry or we can cycle them, but we do play some extraordinary choices. Ancient Tomb and Temple of the False God ramp us out very well, and speaking of ramping, Castle Garenbreak? What a card, this land can ramp us, and yes, it's really only by 1 mana, but still, this card really has no downside, and why not play it among our lands? Dwarven Mine may or may not enter untapped, but if it does, great, we can get a free 1/1 and a free counter. Fabled Passage will no doubt command a high price tag as a much better Evolving Wilds, so watch out. Again, there is no downside to experimenting with new lands that have a decent chance entering the battlefield untapped, so why not try Gingerbread Cabin? I mean, I love food. Myriad Landscape ramps us out, and hey, why not play Prismatic Vista? I overall love this new commander, and the fun we can have with it. No, it's not the most powerful Puzzlestone counter commander, but this is a deck that is a unique mix of everything. So thank you so much for stopping by. The hope is that we'll be posting a lot of content in the next couple of weeks. The deck list is in the description below, so please consider subscribing and have a great day.